What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for April 11th, 2023. We have a big show today, but before I get into our Tuesday positive motivational same, just an update from yesterday. I looked and searched everywhere, and I could not find a documented record of the president getting stuck in an elevator at Veterans Stadium. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means I swear I heard that somewhere. If anybody has any information you could pass along my way about this, let me know because I feel like I heard that and it could have been a different politician or something. But I know there's all kinds of stories of other famous people and the sports writers and commentators and announcers and things like that getting stuck. But I swear I heard at an Army Navy game, the president got stuck in the elevator when he would go to switch sides. But if I can't find documentation of that. I do know Gerald Ford got stuck in an elevator at the University of Penn at some point. So I don't know if that's what I'm confusing with. But if you have any info on that, please send it my way. All right. So it is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little bit of our motivational positivity and going to have a little fun with this today. And this is something I've been saying to my kids recently. And I used to say to the students when I taught them with just different things. And it's basically a rap song from Kurtis Blow. But when something just doesn't go right or they say that's not fair or how come this happened, I always say these are the breaks. And basically, that to me means, guess what? Life's gonna, and we talked about obstacles last week, but to me, those are the breaks. Shit happens. You just got to deal with it and move on. And just to me, how you deal with those things as they come up is what makes you stronger as a person. So, yes, things are not going to go your way. Things are going to seem like they're not fair. But guess what? As Kurtis Blow said, those are the breaks. And then you just need to deal with it and move on. And I think if you spend too much time becoming, and it works both positively and negatively, in my opinion. If you spend too much time wallowing in the bad things or too much time celebrating the good things, you're missing out on things. It's like, you know what? That happened. Let's deal with it, do what we need to do, and then move on. And I think too often, especially in the way things are today, we spend so much time just dwelling on things. And ultimately, to me, that ends up making things worse. So those are the breaks. Move on, and we have a good thing. And honestly, when I was teaching, I used to love it. I used to call him the Honorable Dr. Kurtis Blow. But the kids knew. And I'm like, well, what would Kurtis Blow say? And they would always say, those are the breaks. But I think it's a good life lesson because I think you can say and spend so much time on, oh, that's not fair. This is the listen, those are the breaks. Deal with it, move on. So that is our little Tuesday motivational speech. And if you want, go on Spotify and listen to the song. Kurtis Blow is one of my all-time favorites. Basketball, those are the breaks. My two of my favorite Kurtis Blow songs. So there is that. All right, Phillies update. They finally had the offensive explosion I think we've been waiting for all year. And even if you go back to last year, this is basically what this team is, hot and cold. And what we need to have out of them is consistency. But they exploded off of Sandy Alcantara, or Alcantara. I've heard his name pronounced both ways. I think it's Alcantara. But everything in my head that I've ever been taught about the English language says it should be Alcantara, but it's Alcantara. But they scored 9 off of him in four innings, the defending Cy Young Award winner for the National League. And I think it was a little bit because of the tweak that Rob Thompson did to the lineup, which I like. He put Stott at 1, Turner 2, Schwarber, Castellanos, and then Bohm. And I think hopefully this gives Stott even more confidence and he can continue to, produce at the level he is and be the player that I think his pedigree says he is. I think it might open some things up for Turner. I really like Schwarber in the third spot. I never really did like him leading off, and then Castellanos has looked more comfortable, maybe having him. And again, this is just until Bryce comes back, but I like the way it is. And Bohm, man, he's 3 for 5, 6 RBIs, another home run. I think he's becoming the player too that we thought. So you have some of these young guys who are starting to grow into the players we thought they were going to be, and having the experience they had last year. I think the sky is the limit. We just need to maintain and just hope that their pitching staff stays healthy. But Strahm looked good, 5 scoreless innings again yesterday. I would have liked to see him maybe go another inning, but I was listening to the broadcast, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact the Phillies had 2 big innings, so he had a lot more rest in between, so they want to overtax him. But the bullpen did what they had to do. I mean, they gave up 3 runs, but in blowout games like that, you see that a lot because it's hard to really, you kind of have some sort of complacency there and just, okay, we'll be fine. But good win, 15-3 for the Phils. Hopefully they can keep it rolling. I want to see this lineup stay consistent like this for a couple games to give them a chance. But I really, really like this lineup a lot. And I think Schwarber is going to be even better in a 3-hitter. But anyway, all right, no big injury updates that I've heard for the Sixers. So to me, that means they're going to be relatively healthy heading into their playoff series this weekend with the Nets. I know that I talk a lot about sports gambling and different things I'm doing. And one bet that I saw that I really like, because I think the Sixers are a lock to win this series. I really don't see them losing. But they're minus 800 to win this series. An interesting bet I saw on DraftKings was if you click on the series, they have basically the series spread. So I was able to take the Sixers minus 2.5 games. I mean, it was a little juicy. It was minus 150. But basically that means now if they win in 4 or 5 games, I win the bet. And I like it. It's just a little bit. I mean, it's too expensive to lay minus 800. And they're going to be, the spreads probably are going to be pretty high as the series goes on. So if you're looking to put a little action on the Sixers, definitely check that out. I mentioned it in a quick programming note before we get into this day. No 93 Phillies episode yet. I'm going to hold off because I want to make sure it is good quality. There will be a Sixers preview that I'm recording on Thursday night, so be on the lookout for that. Probably talk a lot about the Nets, but I do want to look ahead a little bit at not only the next round versus Boston, but just sort of where the team goes after the end of this season as well. But more on that on Thursday night. But on this day, back in 1980, it was the Phillies home opener, the opening game of the entire season. They beat the Expos 6-3 down at the Vet. Greg Luzinski hit a 3-run homer. Steve Carlton went 9 innings and had 6 Ks. And we know that 1980 was the year the Phillies finally won their first World Series championship. And one of the sites I used for my research basically gives them where they were after each game in the standings and how many games back they were. And for the most part, the entire year, it was the Phillies, Expos, and Pirates battling it out for those top 3 spots in the NL East. Near the end of the season, the Pirates faded away, but the the Phillies and Expos continued to battle. And on the second to last day, the Sixers, oh my God, everybody but the Phillies. The Phillies were in the middle of a 6-game win streak and won it on the second to last day of the season. They were, and I know just from talking with my dad, my uncles, my grandparents, like they were calling them the cardiac kids because they played a lot of close games. But if you look back at that NLCS against the Astros, I mean, they were definitely down to their last out a lot of times. So it was a fun season. They finally broke through. They had won the 3 straight division titles in the late 70s, brought in Pete Rose, and then he finally got them over the hump. Not too far off from what Moses Malone did for the Sixers. So Pete Rose and Moses Malone kind of had the same impact on their teams in the 80s to finally bring home those championships. But on this day, back in 1980, the Phils opened the season with a 6-3 win over the Expos. Little did they know at the time they would be parading down Broad Street as the champions. All right, let's shift gears and go to our Eagles draft pick spotlight. This guy is one of my all-time favorite Eagles and someone that was able to watch live throughout his whole career. Lito Sheppard, the Jacksonville, Florida native and University of Florida Gator, was the 26th pick in the 2002 NFL draft for the Eagles, and kind of was drafted as the heir apparent to either Troy Vincent or Bobby Taylor, who were getting a little bit older at this point. And that was something back then. The Eagles, they had that magic age 30 thing where once guys got to age 30, they looked to get replacements for them. But even more so in that same draft, in the second round, the Eagles had back-to-back picks and went Michael Lewis and Sheldon Brown. So basically, they replaced 3/4 of their entire secondary. And I just remember being like, what are they doing? Like, I like the Lito pick, and by themselves in a vacuum, all three of those picks were good. And we were like, together, like, you had so many other needs. But it turned out they teamed all three of them up with Brian Dawkins, helped lead the Eagles defense to that Super Bowl in 2004 against the Patriots. So Lito was an All-American in 2000, first team All-SEC in 2000 and 2001. I found this was interesting. Now, this was from 2006, but one of the newspapers down in Florida named him number 44 on the greatest Florida Gators all-time list, which is pretty cool. In the NFL, he was All-Pro in 2004, two-time Pro Bowler, NFC champion, 18 interceptions and 3 touchdowns with the Eagles. Only player in NFL history to have 2 100-plus yard interception returns, both of them against the Cowboys, ironically enough. First one in 2004, but the second one is probably one of the most memorable moments I've ever had at the Link. It was early. It was like week 5 or 6 in the season in 2006. The Eagles were playing the Cowboys for first place. Eagles had just earlier in the fourth quarter, just went up 31-24. Romo had them driving under a minute left. I can't remember whether they were inside the 10 or the 15, but either way, they were close. There was 30-some seconds, and like the crowd was just insane. Like everybody's on their edge of their seat. Romo threw it. Lito took it 2 yards deep in the end zone and was just going up the sideline. And whenever he did something great, they would play Boz Scaggs' the Lito Shuffle. Lito, oh, oh, oh. Well, I'll never forget it, and I swear, like, they started playing it at, like, the 40-yard line because, like, it was nobody was even near him. And, like, I just remember the place went absolutely nuts. One of my all-time favorite memories, one of the biggest interception returns for a touchdown in Eagles. Like, I can think of a few. Lito's, the Troy Vincent, James Willis one, and then the Eric Allen one against, like, it's just so many of them that come up. But this is one of my favorite because I was there, and the crowd went nuts. But 2002, number 26 overall, Lito Sheppard, one of my all-time favorites. And ironically enough, they did to Lito what he did to Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. They signed Asante Samuel, which sort of spelled the end then for Lito, as Asante started opposite of Sheldon Brown. But Lito Sheppard out of Florida back in 2002 for the Eagles draft pick spotlight. Back in 1980 on this day, the Phillies beat the Expos 6-3 in their opening day game. Hopefully, let's get the Phillies to keep this rolling. I want to see this lineup. Sixers on the horizon. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. Remember, those are the breaks. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.